Joining me for another All Hands on Tech with your host, David Neal, Principal Developer Advocate for Pluralsight. I think I have a caption for that. And there we are. We are in the process of building a trivia game using Node.js, of course, JavaScript, Fastify, let's see, Tailwind, CSS, what other kinds of technologies we're using? Oh, we're using Socket.io for WebSocket real-time communications and a number of other things. And so, we're using Vue.js for doing our components on the front end. And we've been making some progress over the last few streams of getting the game functioning. We haven't yet got to the step of making it beautiful, but we'll get there eventually. Right now, we're solving some some technical challenges to how do we do a real-time game system? How do we get messages back and forth between the server and the client? And that's the fun, interesting bits I think that are part of this project. There's just a number of cool things to try to figure out. Let's see. Anybody want to chime in on the chat and let me know if you're returning from a previous stream and where you're coming from? Nick asks, any open job opportunities you would recommend for me to check out with 2 years of tech support experience? That's a great question. I don't have an answer for you, but maybe there's other folks on LinkedIn who can chime in on the chat to help you out there. If it's any encouragement to you, tech support is where I started in my career. When I went to school, I started out in drafting, of all things. I wanted to be a musician, as you can see from guitars and things. Music and making music is something that really interests me a lot. And when I first started college, I thought that was my long-term goal. And so I was a drafting major for a while. Then I switched to business as a major. And then I finally figured out that, hey, I like to work with computers. So I changed my degree to computer science. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do as a career. But my career didn't start out that way. I was in tech support. And I could at least help others with computers. I had the patience for it. And along the way, I was able to figure out opportunities to write some software, to create utilities and automate things on the tech support side to help improve the tech support experience for myself and for my coworkers. And that earned me a reputation of being able to do that stuff. I then went from tech support into IT administration, which was, kind of a logical next step from tech support. And again, I found ways to use my programming skills to automate things and to help others build, come up with creative solutions to things. And again, reputation, I got more and more opportunities to write software or to write utilities or create macros, any number of things to use programming skills. And eventually I was able to make that transition from being in IT to being a full-time developer. So Nick, I wish you the best of luck. If there's any advice I can give you or any other kind of encouragement, please let me know. But I know there's going to be a path forward for you from tech support into other areas of technology if programming is what you want to be able to do. Let's see. Going back to the show we're doing today, the stream that we're doing today, if you want to grab the source code for the project and follow along, if you want to play around with any of the code, if you want to submit a pull request, maybe you've got an idea on something you would like to contribute to the project, all that's on my GitHub repository. You can go to github.com/reverentgeek. That's me. And go to ahot-trivia-game. That stands for All Hands on Tech Trivia Game. Thanks again for joining. Folks are coming in and out. We'll probably stabilize here in a moment. Stick around. We're going to start coding pretty soon. Let me know if you have any questions or any thoughts about stuff that we're doing or ideas for future episodes. Oh, here's a nice little ticker. Ask me anything. Ask me anything. Anytime. If you got a question about any of the stuff that I'm covering. All right. I'm going to leave that link open on the screen there for a little bit longer and switch over to, you want to see an overhead shot of my coffee? What do you think of that? Pretty cool. So, I do other types of content as well that I have an overhead shot. It's kind of cool. All right, here's my screen. Let's we'll pop up in the corner here. Hide the thing. Okay, so in that GitHub repository, there's a README, and this is the content of that README. It's a markdown file. But if you want to get the source code and play around with this project, you'll need Node version 16 or higher. 18 is currently the LTS. So this documentation's out of date. LTS is now version 18. So let me just update that real quick. We'll commit that by the end of today's stream. I use and recommend you install NVM. If you're on Linux or Mac, you can install NVM directly. If you're running on Windows and you're doing any kind of Node.js development on Windows, I highly recommend that you use the Linux subsystem or Windows subsystem for Linux, I think it's called. You can get a lot of the same tooling and experience of from a command line perspective that is kind of like the heart of building applications. It's geeky, it's fun. I like having command line stuff. But NVM is the version manager that will make your life a lot easier when installing and updating versions of Node on your computer. You'll want to get the source code, either download it or clone the repository. Run npm install. Npm is your package manager that comes bundled with Node.js. So you can use npm install to install all the dependencies for the project. And then there's a .env file that you need to create. There's a sample you can rename or copy. And once you run the application, npm run dev, that will launch the web server and you can open up your browser and play the game. Well, we're not yet to that point where you can play the game. We're really close. Today we're going to look at adding a mock-up of the question pool for the game so that we can start to show like questions and choices that people can answer. Let's see. One of the questions that came in is, so if you're using Node.js, is this all back-end development? So we're kind of doing full stack development in this streaming project. So Node.js itself is the back-end server. You could compare that to any number of other server-side languages like Java or C# or PHP, Go. I don't. There's lots of options when building server-side applications, but the Node.js is the server-side component. It is the back end of the app. That's what's providing the web service, the API, the sockets for real-time communication. It's the brain of the application. And then we're also doing some front-end development with Vue and Tailwind and so forth as in the browser, or potentially a mobile experience for connecting to the server to play the game. So the game will be played on either in a browser or on a tablet or a phone or something like that. So the things that we're doing as part of this series of streams includes front end and back end development. But for Node, it's for back end. But the Node is also can be used for lots of other things too. I use Node as my go-to solution these days for building command line utilities and services, and even desktop applications using Electron. It's pretty useful, and it's all JavaScript. So I'm a big believer in JavaScript as a kind of a really valuable skill to have, since it's the language of the web. You can also use that same language to do just about anything when you compare that with Node.js or Electron or any of the other JavaScript-based frameworks and systems out there. Oh, so question is, where can I find the project? Want to follow along during the stream? Yeah, absolutely. I'll put the link up on the screen here. It is at github.com/reverentgeek/ahot-trivia-game. All hands on tech. So go grab the source code for that and follow along. That would be really cool if you did. All right, so I'm going to switch gears over to the command line here. I got my, let me close this other tab. So one of the things I do just about every time I sit down to work on a project on about a weekly basis is I check to see if there's been any updates to Node or to the packages that I'm using. So NVM, if I type NVM ls, that gives me a list of the versions of Node.js that I have installed locally. And if I run NVM, it's like I'm using 18, ls remote 18, it tells me that there's a new version of Node available, 18.15. I'm currently on 18.14.2. I don't know what those changes are. More than likely, it's most of the stable updates to Node.js are security related. So I think it's a good idea to stay. So that will download the latest version of 18 and install it. Shouldn't take too long. So now I have both 18.14.2 and 18.15. And if you might be kind of hard to read that, so I'll highlight it. So just to clean things up, I'll use nvm uninstall 18.14.2 to remove that older version of Node. So now if I type node-v, I see that I'm 18.15, npm-v, I'm at npm version 9.5. And now if I run npm outdated, it checks all the dependencies that I have installed in the project, and it sees that my version of Fastify is out of date. So good idea just to go ahead and update that. If it was a major version, like if it went from version 4 to version 5, that's kind of a signal that, hey, this is a big new release. It may have some breaking changes with the way you're currently building your application. So I wouldn't just blindly install a major update to a project without first going and checking out the release notes to see if it's something that would cause any issues. And depending on what those features are and everything, I would jump in with figuring out, setting aside some time to do the upgrade process. Usually folks who create frameworks like Fastify would document how to upgrade from one major release to another. All right, with everything up, going to use npm run dev. That's going to launch the application. We're using NodeMon to launch our build process and the web server. NodeMon is a developer tool for Node that that launches or executes your application startup, and it monitors your local repository for any file changes. And it can be, wide open, kind of like wildcard. Any file that changes will trigger a restart, or you can give it specific instructions. For instance, I'm telling it to monitor the public folder for any change to a JavaScript, HTML, or CSS file. So potentially I could add some other type of file to that folder, to the public folder, and that would not trigger a restart. All right, I'm going to launch the application, and as I said before, it's not pretty yet. We haven't gone through, we have Tailwind installed and we have Vue installed, and we're using those, but we haven't yet gone through the process or exercise of building a better UI. Below down says I'm on node 19.7. That's totally fine. So let me explain. The older evened number releases of Node.js are the stable and LTS version. So the way the Node ecosystem works is there's a couple of evened number releases that are maintained as your stable production ready Node.js environments. So currently version 16 and 18 are supported, and they are maintained. They are, they get regular security updates, all that kind of stuff. Anything older than 16 is currently deprecated, and Node is on a yearly release cycle where right now, it's in the in-between phase where the next version of Node is currently version 19, and it's kind of the beta slash experimental branch. And it's okay to run version 19, but there may be some breaking changes or some new features in 19 that aren't quite fully baked. And that's cool. It's I have version 19 installed on my system, and I play around with it and see what's new and what's coming. Eventually, version 19 will be replaced sometime around October with version 20, and version 20 will eventually become the LTS, long-term support version, next version of Node. So 20 and version 20, version 18 will be supported, and then version 16 will be dropped from LTS. So yearly cadence, there's always new things coming out with Node, partially because there's always new things coming out in JavaScript. So JavaScript is also on a yearly update cadence, and there's a whole interesting history about how the JavaScript language evolves and gets updated every year too, that I won't go into here, but it's it's fun to geek out about. And it's one of the reasons why I think JavaScript is still, or more so than ever, one of the most valuable and best languages to work with, because you can do so much with it, and it's constantly being improved, and it just keeps getting better and better. It's not like the JavaScript we used to fight with so much back in the 2000s or even the early 2010. Okay, so we got our game. If we click start new game, it asks us for a gamer tag. I can type in my name, and it says thank you for joining. Waiting for other players to join. I can open up another tab and start a new game from here. We'll say player 2. And now the game is starting, and the game starts. Well, this is where the game would be starting if we had one. I don't know if you've ever seen that meme of the cat's like, this is where my cat tower would be if I had one. So this is where our game is going to go. TC Coder says, I'm learning JavaScript now, then Node is next. Good plan. JavaScript, get some JavaScript fundamentals and then start learning some Node.js. It's a good path to go on. So where are we in the game? We've got last time we were working on this thing together, we really fleshed out the countdown service. So we've got a kind of a generic countdown function in our game where we can start the game, do the countdown timer, and we'll reuse the same function to use for the game timer. So the game, the way I'm designing it is, it's not an open-ended trivia game where everyone answers all the questions and then the game is over. It is a timed game where you have maybe 60 seconds or 90 seconds to answer as many questions as you can, and the scoring is based on how many questions you get right. So that's why we have this total seconds calculation here of, are we in a countdown mode or are we in game mode? Right now we have it hard coded to a countdown of 3 and a game of 60 seconds. And somewhere down the road, we may want to allow an administrator of the game to change that configuration. Like I want to be able to run the game for 90 seconds instead of 60 seconds, be able to tweak some of those, the gaming properties to run the game like you want. So we don't have a game yet. Hogwarts Emo Dragon, love that handle, says, "Hey, I'm trying to get NPM to send me a password reset link, but I can't find it." Who? So, there's if you're going to npmjs.org, the website for npm, or npmjs.com, and you're using the registration or sign up and forgot password, email or username. So if you're going this path and you're adding an email address and you're not seeing the password reset link, there's one or two things is happening. One is the password could be, or I'm sorry, my mind is wandering there for a moment. Your email address could be incorrect. Maybe you don't have an email address associated with or the one that you think you have associated with your NPM account there. It could be going to your spam folder, or whatever transactional system NPM uses for sending emails may just be lagging behind. I've seen that happen many times, where it's like they send, service may be sending out a lot of emails, and it may take minutes or hours for the email to actually get sent. So hopefully all that will get straightened out for you. So our next step in building the game is I want to randomize some questions to send to the clients. We don't have a pool of questions yet. I don't even know what kind of trivia game we may want to do at this point. If it's tech-related questions, or if it's silly questions, or maybe want to create I like Star Trek and Star Wars and Doctor Who and all that kind of stuff, right? So we could do a sci-fi kind of trivia game, or I like music. I like guitars. I like geeking out about guitars. It could be a guitar or rock and roll history trivia game, that kind of thing, music history. It doesn't matter. At this point, I just want to create some mock-up questions to use to test our game and to play it. And then we'll come up with some real questions and answers later. So how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, I want to talk about the format of the questions and the answers. We could, like years ago, my first choice would be like, oh, well, we need to create a database and store all these records in a database, and try to, design a schema where we'd have like a pool of questions, and there's a table of choices, and the choices have a one-to-many, or the question table has a one-to-many relationship with the choices table. And, we could do that. That would Um, I love working with databases. But nowadays, especially in the world of JavaScript, we can express and store data just using JavaScript, using JSON files. JSON is stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create in our source folder. I'm going to create a new file and just call it trivia.json. And in this, we're going to define an array of questions and choices. So each question will be its own object. We'll have a question property. Here's an easy question for you. And each question object will include a choices property, which is also an array. And the choices, we could have, say, let's see, the types of questions I want to ask in the game are multiple choice. So it could be a true false question. So you got two choices, true or false. And you've got a multiple choice question, could be 3 choices, could be 4 choices, however many. I want to say up to 4. 4 choices, A, B, C, D kind of thing. So each choice is also an object, and inside that object, there's the choice text, answer 1. Let's see. First one's bacon. And is this answer correct? Well, bacon is always true. So let's add another choice here. Choice is 42. Correct. False. There can be only one. So 42 is the answer, right? But if you have a choice between bacon or 42, I think bacon should be the right answer. Okay, another choice is Google. I'm just making stuff up. And I want 4 choices. So this, all I'm doing here is just giving you the JSON structure that I want all our questions and answers to have. So the choice is mustard, correct, false. So this is the format of the system. I can move this around, put bacon as the second answer or second choice in the list of trivia. So I want to create a pool of these, like maybe 100 or 200 trivia questions, because I want to randomly choose a pool of questions to give to people who are playing the game. So every time the game is played, you get a different set of questions or a random set of questions that you try to answer. So if you play the game more than once, you shouldn't see too many of the same questions being asked, right? So that's the goal, is to have a bigger pool so that when you randomize the question list, you should get a little bit different experience as someone who is playing the game. So to create like a big mock-up pool of these questions, we're going to use JavaScript, of course, to just generate a bunch of these. So I'm going to go in the, instead of the source folder, I'm going to create a new folder called utils. And, if we were doing tests like we should, we should be writing tests for our software and doing all that kind of stuff. If we were doing that, then I might add this to our test folder, like a way to create a bunch of mock questions and answers. But for now, I'm going to create a utils folder, create a file in here, and we'll call it generate trivia. Okay, you just saw me put use strict at the top of this file. You may not be um, accustomed to seeing that or to using that when you build your own JavaScript. It's getting less and less necessary to turn strict mode on, but it's still a habit that I have, and I think it's a good habit when building Node.js applications, especially if you're not using something like TypeScript or you have some type of transpile build process, or you are still using CommonJS. If you're using the newer ECMAScript ECMAScript syntax, like if you're using the module support that's now available in Node.js, where you have like either a .mjs extension, if you're using the syntax import something from whatever library, if you're using that import export syntax, then you're using the new ES modules. And if you're using ES modules, strict mode is turned on by default, and you have nothing else to worry about. But if you're still using CommonJS, as I am in this project, then strict mode is not turned on by default. And I don't have a build process where it's taking like Babel and transpiling my JavaScript. So I'm not interested in that for a backend Node.js project. So I want to use strict mode. And to be honest, I don't remember all the reasons why to use strict mode. I just know that I've done the research in the past multiple times, and I've always come away with the, I guess the conclusion that strict mode is useful and good and should be everywhere in a project. So that is one of my ESLint rules when working with a Node.js project. Strict mode is always turned on. So we're going to use, let's see, we're going to create a function here. Generate random questions. Maybe it will take a parameter, number of questions, an argument is what I mean. And we'll say, let's create an object or an array. And let's loop, let's see, for let I equal 0, I is less than number of questions, I plus plus. And each time we do this, let's say question equals. So going back to our trivia JSON, this is the format that I want things to be in. So we have a question property, question mock trivia question number say I plus 1, since we're 0 based. So the first one that comes in will be 0. So we want mock trivia question number 1 to be the first one. Okay. So that's the question text. And now we need choices. And we want to randomize the number of choices, or randomize the choices as well as the questions. So we'll say choices is currently an empty array. Now, if we want to get a little bit fancier on this, this string text, we could use backticks for what do you call it? The string expressions, template strings. So JavaScript supports template strings where you can embed, like using the dollar brace syntax inside the string. We can have variable names, expressions like this I plus 1, any number of things. So just an alternative to concatenating a bunch of strings together. So on the choices, let's say if the current index divided by 3, is it percent? I want a modulus. It's like every third or fourth in this case. If the remainder is 0, so every fourth question, maybe. 0-based indexing can be weird. So every now and again, whenever we're, if it's either every third or every fourth question, let's do something a little bit different. Let's say the question dot choices is equal. Let's push. So we're pushing onto the array another object. So the choice true correct So we'll push true and we'll push false. And those are the only two choices. So every third or fourth question, trivia question, will be a true false question. Now we could get kind of clever and say we could put a question type property on here and be more explicit. You say multiple choice or true, false. You know, we could explicitly say what type of question each question is. But for now, I think we'll just assume, because we're building this, we can make whatever assumptions we want right now to move faster. We'll assume that if a question has two choices, that those choices will always be true or false. And if a question has 3 or 4 choices, then it's multiple choice. We probably will want to refactor that at some point. If this is going to be like a public game that anybody can add their own questions to, we'd probably want to come up with some question types. Maybe a question type is fill in the blank. Or a question type is write an essay. That would not be a very fun trivia game. All right, so we got our question. We've added some choices. If else, let's say for now that it's going to be 4 choices. For let j equals 0, j is less than 4, so it'll be 4 items, j plus plus. Questions dot choice dot push choice j plus 1. I don't know if the parentheses are necessary, but I'm going to add them anyway. So we're going to loop and create 4 choices. Actually, let's make them all false. And after we're done, we'll say questions.choice. Oh wait, choices. Question. Man, I've got this all jacked up. Question.choices.push. Question.choices. Let's say the third, index 3, which is the 4th item in the array. Let's say that one is true. And now that we're through building this random choice or this random question, we will push this question onto the questions array. All right, let's see if this is working so far. We've defined the function. Let's call the function with, say, 25. Oh, at the end, let's return the questions. And let's console log the questions. Stop that. Say node utils. What did we call it? Generate trivia. So it did generate 25 questions. Mock trivia question number 25. Choices. So we see every third item, there are 2 choices, and the rest of them are have 4 choices. Let's console log the first one in the array just to see what that looks like. So the first one in the array is a true false. True is true. False is false. All right. Let's look at the second one in the array. Choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, choice 4, and only choice 4 is marked as true. All right. So far, so good. So instead of 25, let's generate 200. And when we get our 200, let's put that into our trivia JSON file. How do we do that? Well, let's use the file system. I normally like to use an a module called FS Extra, and that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to install npm install FS Extra. What is FS Extra? It is an extension to the built-in file system module. The one that's built into Node is perfectly fine. You can use it to read and write files, text files, binary files, all types of files. It's got a lot of great utilities built into it, but FS Extra goes a little bit further and adds utilities for working with JSON. Makes it a lot easier. There's like little shortcuts and things. So I just like using it. So now we have an FS Extra dependency in our package JSON. And I'm going to come up here in our generate trivia and require that in. And down here, we'll say fs dot write JSON. That's one of the nice extras that's on FS Extra. Write JSON, and we'll just use the current path. We'll call it mock trivia.json. The object is our list of questions, our array of questions, and we'll say dot then, because the FS Extra methods are all promise-fied, so we can use promises. We could use async and await. We'd have to add more code around that to make it work, but let's just use promises. So then we'll say console.log finished. And it'd help if I spelled it correctly. So I have a spell checker plugin, in case you didn't notice, in Visual Studio Code, so that it can let me know if I've made some errors in my spelling. All right, so let's run that. npm or node utils generate trivia. I get my finished here, come back to my project, and I've got mocktrivia.json. It actually put it in the directory above utils. That's fine. Well, let's talk about that, because that's also something that's commonly something you have to deal with in Node.js applications is file paths. And how does Node know or figure out where file paths are? So in any case, you're going to want to use the path library on Node. This is a built-in library, and path is used to manipulate file system folder paths and all those kind of things, resolve different folder paths. And it is what do you call it? Cross-platform. So when Node is running on Mac or Linux or Windows, there are different rules for path formatting and path traversal. Path separators are different across different operating systems. So the path library makes it easier to write code that is going to be compatible to run on any operating system. So instead of using /mocktrivia, which could be a problem running on a Windows machine because it's not the same path separator. The slashes are different on Windows versus Mac or Linux, and I'm on Mac right now. So if I rather say trivia file equals path dot join, and I'm going to use a special kind of like a global variable that Node.js makes available for any application. That is _ dir name. And that is the path to the current application folder. Wherever this application lives, the project folder is going to give like a full system path name to that folder. And I'm going to join that path with utils. And also the file name, mocktrivia.json. So the path library is going to join all those things together. It's going to use the appropriate separators depending on the operating system that I'm on, and create the correct file path and name that I need. So let's delete this one and let's run this again. we don't see the file showing up in utils. Where did it go? Well, let's comment out these two things and console log trivia file. Now, I could be wrong. It could be like dir name might be pointing to the current folder that this script file is in, and that may be the case. It may be that I've put utils inside what is already the utils folder. So I just may not be remembering how underscore underscore dir name works. And that is the case. So underscore underscore dir name is going to be the current folder where that script file is executing. So we need to remove utils. So the file didn't go anywhere. It didn't work because the that path didn't exist. Whoops. Finished. And now we have a mock trivia. Whoa. It is all jammed in there, which is fine. So there's no formatting. It's all just, everything's concatenated together, and that is fine. Then, the computer doesn't care. This is more efficient and for the computer, but for us, from a readability standpoint, it's a little bit harder to read because it's all squished together. We're used to seeing JSON in a prettier, format, more pleasing for humans to read. That's part of the beauty of JSON. So we can fix that too. So instead of there is a third parameter to this write JSON that is like a options object. And I don't remember off the top of my head what the property is, but there's a property we can set to have it formatted so that it's more readable for us. So here's a trick for you, a tip. If you use npm-docs npm space docs space and the name of the library, in this case fs extra, it will open the docs for that project in your default browser. So I'm going to look for the write JSON method, and in the options we have a property called spaces. Is the number of spaces to indent or a string to use for the indentation, such as using a tab character. So spaces is 2. Let's run it again. Now when we look at our mock trivia, it is all nicely formatted so that we see choices. Yeah, and every third or so question, we get a true-false question. The rest of them are choice 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's all our mock stuff. So we are at time. If you have any questions, post those in the chat now. But we covered, even though we didn't get as far as I wanted to today, we covered a lot of stuff. We covered JSON and working with the file system and the path library that's built into Node.js and using FS Extra to write a JSON file. We can also use it to read JSON files and have it automatically parse that into JSON. We'll do that later on when we read that trivia JSON file back in. We also, went over how do we create mock data. So we did some of that today. So on the next stream, we will take the mock data that we generated today and we'll start to build the back end so that it pulls in that all those questions, that pool of questions, randomize a new set of questions for the current game, and send that to the client so that the clients can display each of those trivia questions and capture the response from the player and send those responses back to the server so that the server can calculate a running score. We're making progress. Hope you're enjoying these sessions. Hope you're learning some stuff. I'd love to hear your feedback. Let me know if you have any questions or have any feedback for things that we're covering. I'm going to go ahead and add all the stuff that we worked on today. Adds a trivia question pool mockup. Push that to the repository. So now it's there. If you want to go grab that source code, that source code is going to live in GitHub under my repository, Reverend Geek /ahot-trivia-game. Thank you for joining me on another episode of All Hands on Tech. I am your host for this set of streams. My name is David Neal. I'm a developer advocate for Pluralsight, and my job is to help you be more awesome. So if there's anything I can do to help you on your journey of learning technology, JavaScript, Node.js, the whole JavaScript ecosystem, that's kind of my specialty, but I also do things like C# and SQL Server and databases and web stuff and illustrations and design. If there's anything I can help you with, please let me know. Thank you for sticking with me through this stream today. And if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. You can always find me on any social media as Reverend Geek. Thank you again, and I'll see you hopefully on the next All Hands on Tech. Hope you have a great rest of your week.